On December 17, 2020, Chang'e 5 brought back 1,731 grams of lunar soil samples from the Moon. This was the first time that humans had obtained samples from young volcanic rock areas on the lunar surface, and it was also the first time that Chinese scientists had their own extraterrestrial return samples. More than 3 years later, on June 25, 2024, China's Chang'e 6 not only successfully completed the mission of exploring the South Pole at the end of the month, but also brought back 1,935 grams of precious lunar soil. According to the plan, these lunar soil samples will be shared with 18 countries and organizations around the world, but the United States, as a major space power, is not among them. For this reason, NASA warned China that the resources of the Moon belong to the commonwealth of all mankind, and the newly collected lunar soil should be shared with the United States free of charge. So why is China unwilling to share lunar soil with the United States? What is the significance of these lunar soils for our scientific research? The Moon is about 384,000 kilometers away from the Earth on average, and its surface area is about 38 million square kilometers, which is larger than the largest continent on Earth, Asia. What is even more incredible is that the surface of the Moon is covered with craters of varying depths, and the number of these craters has reached an astonishing millions. They record the history of the evolution of the Moon and even the solar system. It is these unique natural features that make the Moon an important research object in many disciplines such as astronomy, geology, and space exploration. In 1957, the former Soviet Union successfully launched the first artificial satellite in human history, marking the official entry of mankind into the space age. Then in 1959, the Lunar 1 probe became the first man-made object to fly over the Moon, opening the prelude to human close observation of the Moon. Immediately afterwards, the Luna 2 probe successfully hit the surface of the Moon and became the first man-made object to reach the Moon. In 1969, the United States Apollo 11 mission achieved the first man-made landing on the Moon, a feat that pushed human exploration of the Moon to a new height. In 2004, China officially launched a lunar exploration program called the Chang'e Project. This program aims to gradually achieve comprehensive exploration and utilization of the Moon through 3 stages: unmanned lunar exploration, manned lunar landing, and the establishment of a lunar base. In 2007, the Chang'e 1 satellite was successfully launched, opening a new chapter in China's lunar exploration. Subsequently, Chang'e 2, Chang'e 3 and other probes were successfully launched one after another, not only realizing the orbital exploration and soft landing of the Moon, but also successfully obtaining high-definition images and a large amount of scientific data on the lunar surface. But did you know? Among the exploration missions of the Chang'e project, Chang'e 6 is undoubtedly the latest achievement of China's lunar exploration. On May 3, 2024, China successfully launched the Chang'e 6 probe, whose mission included collecting samples from the lunar surface and bringing them safely back to Earth for scientific research. On June 2, Chang'e 6 successfully landed in the South Pole Aitken Basin on the far side of the Moon. This feat not only marks a huge leap in China's space technology, but also provides valuable scientific data for human exploration of the far side of the Moon. On June 4, Chang'e 6 began to drill deep lunar soil. On June 6, Chang'e 6 completed the lunar orbit rendezvous and docking and in-orbit sample transfer, and then began its return journey. On June 25, Chang'e 6 successfully landed in the designated area of Xizhiwang Banner, Inner Mongolia, China, and brought back 1,935 grams of precious lunar soil. It is worth mentioning that the cost of Chang'e 5 is as high as 3 billion yuan. Referring to the cost of Chang'e 4 and Chang'e 3, we can infer that the cost of Chang'e 6 is at least 1.5 billion yuan. According to the lowest cost of Chang'e 6, the cost of each gram of lunar soil is as high as more than 770,000 yuan. So, How will China use these expensive lunar soils? And with which countries will it share this scientific achievement? On December 17, 2020, Chang'e 5 brought back 1,731 grams of lunar soil samples from the Moon. Over the past 3 years, according to statistics from the China Space Administration, 131 domestic research teams have obtained 7 batches of scientific research samples totaling 85.48 grams. With the help of this batch of samples, Chinese scientists not only discovered the 6th new mineral on the Moon Chang'e stone, but also postponed the end of lunar volcanic activity by about 800 million years through geological dating of the samples. More importantly, Chinese scientists have proved that there are water resources on the Moon, and basically each ton of lunar soil contains at least 170 grams of water. However, the mysteries of lunar soil go far beyond this. As a potential nuclear fusion fuel, helium-3 is considered to be the hope of future energy. Some scientists estimate that 1 million tons of helium-3 can provide the Earth with clean energy for 10,000 years. Chinese scientists pointed out that the reserves of helium-3 on Earth are extremely low, while the reserves on the Moon are extremely abundant. Therefore, there may be a large amount of helium-3 in the lunar soil waiting for us to mine. However, due to the lack of direct sample analysis evidence and detailed quantitative research, this theory has been controversial. Fortunately, the 1,935 grams of lunar soil samples brought back by Chang'e 6 this time are expected to provide strong support for these theories. In addition to scientific research, lunar soil has been exhibited for a long time in China's National Museum, Party History Exhibition Hall and other venues, becoming a window for people to feel the charm of the Moon up close. In addition, these lunar soils have also been publicly exhibited in Hong Kong, Macau and other places, giving more people the opportunity to see the true face of the Moon with their own eyes. This kind of popular science activity not only enhances the public's interest in lunar exploration, but also inspires Chinese residents' love for scientific exploration. As for which countries China will share this scientific achievement with, there is actually an answer. According to the survey, during the previous meeting between the heads of state, China presented 1.5 grams of scientific research samples to Russia and France respectively. After years of research, these two countries must have conducted in-depth research on lunar soil. If China wants to understand the lunar soil more comprehensively, it will inevitably share the lunar soil with them again to obtain their scientific research results. But all this makes the United States dissatisfied. Why is this? As we all know, in the late 1960s and early 1970s, NASA successfully sent astronauts to the Moon. These brave astronauts not only took the symbolic first step on the lunar surface, but also collected precious lunar samples and brought them back to Earth. After these lunar samples returned to Earth, scientists conducted a detailed analysis and the results showed that no traces of water were found in the samples. In other words, the lunar soil is very dry. But in recent years, China's exploration missions have proved that there are water resources on the Moon. In addition, India has also found signs of water on the Moon in recent lunar exploration missions. If there are water resources in other areas of the Moon that have not yet been explored by humans, then the dream of building an interstellar base on the Moon will be closer to reality. Water can not only sustain the life activities of humans and other organisms, but can also be used to produce hydrogen and oxygen, which is essential for establishing long-term settlements on the Moon. Considering that the resources in outer space belong to whoever gets them first, the United States research on the Moon is different from that of China and India. This has made NASA begin to question its scientific research capabilities. Even more embarrassing is that although the United States is eager to go to the Moon again to verify this discovery, it is currently unable to arrange for a probe to go to the Moon to drill for lunar soil again due to budget, technology or other unknown reasons. Against this background, NASA publicly stated that science has no borders and called on China to share this precious scientific research resource free of charge. So, will China agree? In the early space exploration, the United States stood at the top of the space field with its strong scientific and technological strength. But before China launched the lunar exploration program, it had repeatedly asked the United States to share lunar soil samples, but the response was indifference and rejection. Not only that, the United States has also taken measures such as restricting technical exchanges and imposing technical blockades to try to curb the development of China's space technology. But what we need to understand is that we are in a world driven by interests. Therefore, everything has a price. The fact that cooperation has not yet been reached can only mean that the interests are not enough and need to be increased. Therefore, if NASA is willing to pay a lot of price, China may give up the previous unpleasantness and reach cooperation. On the other hand, even if China is unwilling to share lunar soil samples, the United States, as a leader in the space field, its strength should not be underestimated. Therefore, although the United States cannot go to the moon to obtain samples in person for the time being, they also have sufficient resources and capabilities to continue their exploration journey on the moon and even in the universe beyond in other ways.